Upon meeting my focal student Riley, a junior at East Lansing High School, I could feel the bubbly energy and joy that surrounded her. In art class, she sits with friends from her cross-country team, and during work time, they are always laughing and sharing stories from their week. Riley has a constant smile on her face and is always ready to learn whatever she can in the classroom. Having the opportunity to spend the last couple weeks working and talking with her about art and literacy has been a great experience. During my discussions with Riley, I found that she is very interested reading and writing inside and outside of the classroom. While she enjoys teen fiction books such as We Are Liars the most, I found that she has a desire to work through some classics such as Pride and the Prejudice. Her interests in these texts come from her mother, who is also an avid reader. Riley stated that she gets a lot of her inspiration from her mother, who helps her and supports her with schoolwork inside and outside of classroom writing endeavors. When reading A Tale of Two Cities, Riley said she relied on her mother a lot to help her understand the bigger words. She would often have to go back into the text and reread a lot of the passages a few times in order to understand the book. Inside of the classroom, my focal student reads books and articles for classes, such as chemistry and AP language. Those two subjects tend to be the most challenging for her because the texts are rather dense and sometimes in AP language the material can be a little bit off-putting. When she is having trouble comprehending these texts, she feels comfortable asking her teachers for help. Besides reading many books in her free time, Riley is also very interested in writing short stories. Currently, she writes for herself and does not like to share with others. There is an online forum that she posts to anonymously where other writers and enthusiasts can read her short stories and give her some feedback. When writing these short stories, she says she struggles most with dialogue. Writing proper and exciting dialogue are specific issues for her in story composition. One way she overcomes this is by listening to television shows and observing how characters interact with one another. Short story writing is a great literacy skill that Riley has brought to the art classroom. Sometimes artistic compositions can be small narratives for the viewer to dissect. This is one way that the artists use visual literacy in their work. Riley can take ideas from her short stories and incorporate them into the paintings she is working on in the classroom. Riley is part of the Introduction to Painting class at East Lansing High School. I was able to observe 2 projects over the last 2 months in the class. Students were working on a color scheme painting that had to be composed of a picture they took, and it had to incorporate 6 different sections of color combinations. During this time, students, including my focal student, learned an immense amount of vocabulary that had to do with color wheel and color theory. Terms such as complementary, tertiary, and analogous colors were utilized in their final compositions. My focal student painted a picture that she took while touring a big city. She was able to quickly recall all of the color terminology that she had learned during class when describing the painting to me. Some strategies that really helped Riley when working with her art project and studying for her test were graphic organizers designed to categorize specific artists and their traits. These organizers had places where students could list vocab words associated with famous painters. Students also picked a famous artist to get influence from for their painting. They then had to do a fact-finding activity where they gathered information about that artist and got into groups based on the artist they chose. In the groups, the students would share information and gather the most interesting facts to put on a poster, which would then be shared with the class. This activity allows group work and student interaction with one another. It also allows students to do research outside of the classroom. I found that this activity made the students really excited to work on their paintings based on their chosen artist. Students felt ownership because they got to do research and pick the project on their own. This success was mirrored in their tests as I watched them utilize vocabulary words properly and recreate color swatches with ease. Riley is so dedicated to school and being involved in activities. I hope that she continues that attitude through graduation and into college. While working with me, I can only hope that she learned that it is not easy to pursue a career in the creative arts, but it is definitely worth it. Whatever path she chooses for her future, I also hope that she continues to read and write. If I had more time to work with my focal student, I would encourage her to do short creative writing practices, such as keeping a 10-minute journal, where she would block off 10 minutes a day to fill a page with non-stop writing. I would also try to work with interesting story prompts with her to help her figure out more ways to get the creative workflow going. If I were the mentor teacher, I would try to figure out what my students were interested in outside of the art classroom and how to utilize it in their artwork. For example, my focal student being interested in writing short stories is great because she can use those short stories to create visual narratives in her artwork. Working with my focal student was such an enjoyable part of my Friday mornings. It was great to work with a student who is eager to learn and share her experiences. I feel that I have gathered a lot of insight into what being in high school is like right now. I graduated high school 6 years ago, which is not a very long time, but a lot has changed since then. Sometimes I worry that young adults are not interested in reading or creating art as much as they used to be because of the additions of Netflix and social media to our ever-changing world. It is so great to know that students are still going to the library, checking out books, and reading while they relax by the lake or on a rainy day, like my focal student tends to do. Riley taught me not to be worried about trying something new, like writing short stories. Even though she is still hesitant to share them with everyone, it is important that she is writing them as a tool of self-expression. I can apply this to my own life in the way of making art. Most of the time, creating, whether it is art, music, or writing, is very personal and we tend to be our own biggest critics. But remembering to keep creating, even when we do not think it is good enough to share,